There we go. Okay. So, Jonathan, you were saying you had a question about what we've been doing so far?
Yes.
And the question was how does he get into the meditative state? And so my initial answer was it was by objectifying your own thoughts. And so what that means is when we started yesterday with this idea of observing our thoughts, without judging them, just observing them, right? Because if I'm judging them, do I like it, don't I like it? It's based on my judgment. The idea of having a thought and not judging it removes me from my sense of self. It removes me from this place of this thought is part of me, and it makes it more a place of this is a thought.
Gotcha. Okay.
And by going through this whole process of this is a thought, just observing my thoughts without judging them, without having any kind of input to what they are, right? That's much more similar to the way we described a dream state before that, right? So, when he was talking about the idea of a dream is 1/60th of prophecy, because the thing that gets in the way of our being able to receive is our own thoughts as they run and as they go ahead. He said that dreams take us away from that active thinking. It's much more passive in the way that my dreams happen to me for the most part. And so, similarly, he says, the first thing we have to do if we want to quiet our minds, if we want to achieve this Hashkata, this mindfulness, is I have to observe my thoughts as though they're happening to me, right? I don't judge my dream within the dream if it was a good dream or a bad dream. Afterwards I wake up, now let me think about it because I have more sense of self. But the moment I'm in the dream, it's just happening. And similarly, he says, let your thoughts just happen. Tune into your thoughts. And that will quiet your mind, right? It's that being objective when it comes to observing our own thoughts. It's just a thought. It's not my thought. It's not a subjective thing. It's just objectively, there's a thought. And by doing that, I get rid of my sense of self, and I find myself in a mindset that's much more similar to the dream state, right? To the way Dora said the other day, to the alpha state, right?
Right. Yeah.
And when I achieve that alpha state, that's the place where he said I should infuse it with Kedusha, whether it's saying a pasuk, some kind of verse, anything like that, I should infuse it with Kedusha. And once I've infused it with Kedusha, and the only thought in my head is this thought of Kedusha, at that point I can, from that place of objective, not judging, not so much for myself, just acknowledging that which I want from a level of Kedusha, right? In this quiet way I should ask for it. And that's where we pretty much ended yesterday. He said 3 different kinds of thoughts, or of tefillot, prayers that he would ask for. For example, faith, because faith it's not about me, it's about connecting to that which is beyond me. And then he said love. Again, love is one of these hard things to define. And then there's which we said is when things are great. I do like to look at love as the idea from the Chalal. There's a concept in Kabbalistic thought that says, if God is the God of love, what does that mean? And so the way I've always understood it is, if Hashem is infinite, and within that infinite, Hashem made space for creation to exist, so that idea of making space for the other to exist is an act of love. And the more I love someone, the more space I make for them, right? So, I can love my wife, and I can love my kids, and I can love my pet. But how much space am I making for them, right? There's this concept that I've heard many times, which I never liked, which is love is an act of giving. But a person gives their pet far more than they give their spouse. You hope, right? Maybe, when we're all 90 and 100 years old, we have to give a lot more to our spouse. But, right? Does that mean that we love our pets more? Forget it, right? I have to feed my plants water. I never have to feed my wife water. She feeds herself water. So I don't have to give her water. So I love my plant more? Forget, of course not. right? But I have much more space for her than I have for the plant, for what her needs, for her desires, for thinking about her during the day, right? I think about my plant twice a week when I have to water it, right? I think about my wife, hopefully about twice an hour,
Right.
if not twice a minute, right? That's more like it. Not just ideally is it more like it, that's really more like it. And so, this idea of love is really that. So can we ask for how much space does Hashem make for me? Can I have Hashem make space for me? Hashem, let there be space in my heart for everyone, right?
Okay.
So can we ask for those things? So that's actually where he's going to go. So we talked yesterday about the idea of asking for emunah, for asking for more faith. And I want to go through it quickly again. Right, he said, don't ask for strong, because that only, when we ask too strong, that awakens ourselves. That's it. He says, when it comes to asking for things like faith, don't demand it. Give me faith, let me believe. No, he says, because that's too much me. It would be great if I had faith. It would be great if I knew, Hashem, that you really existed in this world. Not just to think it, not just to understand it, but to really know it in my kishkas, like to really see, Hashem, that your light is shining through everything. That's where we kind of ended yesterday. And then he goes on. Gam zechiti lishmoa be'inyan ahava. I've also heard about this matter of love.
Of?
Love.
Oh, okay.
That the Rebbe used to ask for love.
Oh, I'm not sure where you are here.
So in the English, I also merited to hear about love. Right?
Oh, there we are. Okay.
Yeah. V'zeh haya l'shono hakadosh. And this is what he said. This was his holy language. So I have again the Yiddish here. I'm going to skip that to the English, or to the Hebrew. Ratziti ma'od lihiyot karov laHashem yitbarach. The Rebbe says, I wanted so much to be close to Hashem. Hayiti ma'od rotze lahargish hitkarvut lahaboreh hagadol. I really want to feel closeness to the great Creator. And he says that was his thought when he wanted love. What does it mean to love? To feel closeness. Right? I was saying it's to have space. He's saying it's more than that. I can make space for somebody and feel very distant for them. Right? That's actually what hate is. I have a tremendous amount of hate in my heart for somebody. Right? If I have a tremendous amount of hate in my heart, I have a massive amount of space for them because I can't get them out of my mind. I'm so consumed by my hatred. That's actually this week's parsha with Yaakov and Esav. We say Esav hated Yaakov. He was consumed by it. Right? That's why love and hate are very similar kinds of things. They're both all-consuming. He says, but what differentiates the two? That when I hate somebody, I feel very distant from them. When I love somebody, I feel very close to them. That's the way he would pray for love. In this place where he's thinking thoughts of holiness, in this place where he's already mindful of his own place, he says, I want to feel closeness. He says, Va'amar az, she'yochalim zot hashkata l'shamesh l'chol tikunei hamidot gruot. He says, and when it comes to hashkata, when it comes to quieting, when it comes to trying to get closer and connect more deeply and to pray in a mindful way of the things that I want in my life, he says we can achieve any kind of fixing of any kind of character trait, especially negative ones. However, aval, lo ba'ofen shlili, not in a negative way, rak ba'ofen chiyuvi, ba'ofen hefech hamida hara'a. It says in a way that's the opposite of the evil trait. So we tend to think about it. If there's something going on within me that I don't like, that I want to get rid of, the way I get rid of it is by really focusing on what that thing is and being aware of that negative trait and then stopping myself in the middle of it. So for example, if I'm dealing with anger and I'm yelling at my kids, So I have to catch myself in the middle of yelling and be like, oh, I'm yelling. I have to stop yelling. Right? Stop. And normally it doesn't work. But I have to catch myself and I have to, almost yell at myself. Stop yelling. Stop. It's not a good trait. I have to stop it. Okay. He says, but that's not the way to do it. The way to achieve it, according to the way of Hashkata, is with the opposite. My focus shouldn't be about yelling and stopping yelling. It should be about exercising patience. Right? That's what he says. Kugon, mi shenilka b'midah ha'atzlut, lo yidaber b'inyan harchakat ha'atzlut. Right? He says somebody who is dealing with laziness, somebody finds, I can't motivate myself to do anything. Right? Or I have this thing I want to do. Yeah, I'll do it. You know what? I'll do it in 5 minutes. Let me get a cup of coffee first. Okay, in 5 minutes from now. Oh, now I have something else to do. Later. Okay. You know what? I'd rather just watch TV right now. Somebody who feels this atzlut, this laziness. He says, don't try to stop being lazy. Right? I'm not going to be lazy today. Today I'm not going to be lazy. Today I'm just going to be a go-getter. Actually, he doesn't say, today I'm going to not be lazy. Don't say I'm not going to not be lazy. He actually says, Rak binyan kniyat hazrizut. Today I'm going to be a go-getter.
Right.
Do the opposite. I'm not going to stop being lazy, which is negative. I'm going to be, zrizut is a go-getter, so that's the word, alacrity. I'm gonna live with alacrity. It's a big word. I don't really know what it means, but that's what it means. I'm just gonna get up and I'm gonna run to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Here's an opportunity, let me just do it. Don't figure out is the right time, the right way, let me just do it. And that's how we get rid of laziness. Not by saying I'm not going to be lazy, I'm going to catch myself in the midst of being lazy and try to stop. But I'm going to actively do things.
So he's always doing a positive, never a negative.
Always in a positive way. He says, according to Hashkata, if we want to grow, if we want to become better, the way we become better is not by focusing on what we do wrong, but by focusing on how to do right. Right? How can I do the right thing? What is the opposite of the wrong thing that I'm trying to get away from? And let me do that. Let me acquire this go-getter attitude, this let me do it now attitude, as opposed to let me get rid of laziness, let me become fast acting.
Right.
And that will be long lasting. Now we're headache medicine. Okay. Fast acting, long lasting. That's not.
No, that's fine. I was thinking you can't say don't read that book because the person hears read that book. You've got to say something positive like read another book.
Right.
And because if you use the negative, they'll only hear the negative.
Right.
And they'll do what you don't want
if
them to
there's
do.
So
which is what he's saying in a different way.
For sure. Actually, he gets into the idea of music here. And in his other books, he also talks a lot about the kind of music we listen to. Right? And if you tell somebody, don't listen to that kind of music, they're going to go listen to that kind of music. It's like telling a child, don't put your finger in the socket. The first thing they're going to do is put their finger in the socket. Right? It's, you got to hear this song.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like a kosher song, if you will. Right? It's, you got to hear this one. You got to do this one. Don't not do that, but do this.
Yeah. And you don't hear the negatives.
You don't hear the negatives.
You don't hear the not. You just hear the rest of it.
Hear the yes.
Yeah.
Right? There's a whole concept of positive parenting and things like that. Instead of telling your kids what not to do, tell them what to do or how to do things in a more productive manner. Right? That's exactly the idea he's getting at, this positive approach. Okay. He says, "V'hizbir zot b'zeh shero'im b'chush etzel tinok shebe'im boche v'omrim lo shelo yivkeh kol ma shemosifim ledaber lo hu yoter boche." So the example he gives is if we have a child who's crying, the more that you tell that child, stop crying, it's okay, stop crying, there's nothing to cry about, they're going to cry more. Right? You're not validating their feelings. Right? So the moment you're not validating them, they cry more because, it's so terrible that I'm crying, so I now have to cry about the fact that I'm crying. He's saying, don't do that. It doesn't work. So we're going to pause now. Because until then, he had this one idea. And now he's going to say, let's say this whole observing your thoughts thing is too hard. It's not always easy, especially without judgment, right? We tried it the other day, and we only took a minute or two, but within that minute or two, right? You'd think, maybe I can achieve this for 30 seconds, right? Within that first minute or two, we're already all judging. No, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about that? Oh, I shouldn't be thinking that. I should be thinking more like this. Why am I not thinking? Right? And so it wasn't so easy. So let's say somebody really can't do it. Their mind is always running, and we're so trained already how to be judgmental on ourselves. How do I get to a place where I can do this without being judgmental? And so he says, there's another way to achieve this quieting. Another way to achieve Hashkata. He says, Gam efshar lishtamesh b'hashkata b'habata al sha'on, al hamachog hakatan, shekim'at eino zaz meshech ezezman. He says, there's another way to do it. Look at a clock, not a digital clock, an analog clock, and look at the small hand, right? The hour hand. Right? And he says, watch it. Because it seems like it doesn't move, but it's moving. Every second and every minute, it's moving. It's just moving really slowly. Watch it. Watch something that seems like it's not moving, and see if you can see it moving. Right? And he says by watching the hour hand for an amount of time, he goes on, he says, Ki gam ze mashkit ritzono machshavotav. That's also going to quiet your desire and your thoughts. Right? Because eventually you'll be saying, you'll start off saying, I can't see it. I can't see it moving. I want to see it. This is boring. This is terrible. Oh, what torture. And then eventually you might say, oh, it was on the line before. Now it's just off the line. Huh. And just keep watching. Keep watching. And eventually this staring will just become the only thing you're focused on. To the point where you won't be thinking about anything else except for, I'm watching the hour hand of this clock. And the more you're watching the hour hand of the clock, the more it's not about what I want. Right? Because whatever I want, I definitely don't want to be staring at this hour hand. Right?
That's like staring at a candle. It's the same thing, I would think.
Totally. I absolutely, right? Like staring at a candle. Let me watch the candle burn.
Yeah.
Right? Let me watch the flower bloom and grow. It is blooming and growing. It just takes a very long time to actually happen. I think so a candle's a good example also, right? And the same thing with the hour hand here, that
I'm just thinking I don't have that kind. I do on the wall. I have that kind.
Is it on your wrist or something?
This would work, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Would work.
Just stare at your watch.
The watch would do, yeah.
How long can I stare at this watch and watch that small hand moving? Because it really doesn't look like it's moving. Even the minute hand is barely moving. Right? And imagine just staring at it for these
That's right, and you
moments.
don't think.
You don't think. You become very busy about just staring at the hour hand. And he says you don't think. And you definitely don't want to be doing that. But if you're doing that, you're overcoming your own inner desires, the things that I want, all the things that are bothering me, distracting me. And he says, "La'achar hashkata shezeh tzarich lahabit le'ezeh min hashra'a mimarom, tziva le'mor pasuk horeini Hashem darkecha." So now he goes on. He says, now after someone's done this, and we've achieved this quieting, right? We have to bring down upon ourselves some kind of again, where this idea hashra'a mimarom, some kind of resting from above. Right? Some kind of indwelling of the divine presence, whatever that is. And so the first time he said, our thoughts are what gets in the way of that. So then he gave us one example of how to quiet our thoughts and create a halal, create an open space. And then to fill that open space with a holy thought. and then within that to ask for holy desires. And now he says, once we've done that and we've achieved this hashkata, where I know the holiness that I'm looking forward to, that I know what I'm trying to get out of this, he says at that point, we're trying to achieve prophecy, essentially. We're trying to achieve a level of divine inspiration of what's called Ruach HaKodesh. Right? We're not trying to just be quiet. It's not just mindful, I'm aware. I'm trying to achieve prophecy.
Right.
Right? The goal of mindfulness isn't mindfulness. In a Western context, the goal of mindfulness is mindfulness.
Yeah.
And here the goal of mindfulness is prophecy. And the way we bring about prophecy is active. I don't wait for it to happen to me. I actively bring it upon myself. And he says, so once we've achieved it, he says, the Rebbe Tziva Lemor, he commanded a person to say the verse, Horeini Hashem darkecha. Hashem, teach me your ways. Teach me your ways, God. That's what's important to me.
Now, is this a thing you should do daily, hourly, monthly?
He would say as much as you possibly can.
Okay.
Right? If you have 5 minutes, do it for 5 minutes. If you have an hour, do it for an hour. Right? Rabbi Nachman is very big on the idea of set aside a specific time period every day.
He's not 20 minutes a day then.
Right. It could be 20 minutes a day.
That's the
But make sure it's a set
specific
20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Make sure it's, Rabbi Nachman said, go to the fields in the middle of the night into a place where nobody goes during the day, and like
That's
in a
difficult.
place, there's something to the night. There's like a whole thing that the world is actually quieter at night. And it's actually a thing. And apparently, the sun sings. The sun has a song and makes a lot of noise.
Oh.
We're not aware of it. But when the sun is out, the world is actually noisier. Not just because people are out and about. It's the world is noisier. And so at night, there's far more quiet, right?
Oh.
And so Rabbi Nachman was big on going out at night. But it doesn't matter. Any time of the day is good for it, where you quiet yourself down, and you find this time and you find this space for a set period of time to involve yourself in this work.
Okay.
Now, he goes on, he says, when you say this pasuk, b'niginoto hamiyuchad shel yedidi hana. Or sorry, miyuchad shel admor. He said, the Rebbe had a special tune. I don't know what this tune is. It would be awesome to know.
Has a special...
A nigun.
Oh, okay.
So a nigun is like a special, it's a wordless melody.
Okay.
Right? So he says, when you say, Horeini Hashem darkecha, it's not just any Horeini Hashem darkecha. It could be, Hashem, teach me your way. But wouldn't it be great if you knew, like, the tune? Right? Make up a tune. Or use any song that you love. Right? I know Rav, he's like a big Kabbalist, and he meditates a lot with a lot of things. He says, if you're into rock and roll, find a rock and roll song. I don't know if the Piasatzner Rebbe would be into it. He was really big into the kavana behind the music, the way it was written. But this particular Rav says, if you're into rock and roll, so pick your favorite song and say Horeini Hashem darkecha. Right? If your favorite song is Stairway to Heaven, so instead of all the words to Stairway to Heaven, say Horeini Hashem darkecha, Horeini Hashem darkecha.
What
Right?
will that do?
Well, so there's something about a tune, music. The music touches the soul in a particular way, right? And I think we all know that, and we're all aware of it. That when I hear a song that kind of touches me deep, I can feel it, right? And that music speaks to me. I mean, so I also work in chaplaincy at Baycrest, and I will go around with my ukulele, and there are some people who have, very late stage dementia, who can't communicate anymore. They can't move anymore. They can't communicate. But if I play a song, they kind of tune into it. The music hits something.
So
in
one
their
of
heart.
my favorite songs is I Hear the Earth Move Under My Feet, which is rather appropriate for
Sure.
This sort of
I don't actually know the song.
it's I
who's
can't
it?
remember her name. She's
No?
very famous. She's wrote a whole bunch of good stuff.
Okay.
But I can't remember. But one of them is I hear the
I hear the earth move under my feet.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you who it is later.
All right. Yeah, I
on
can look
when
it
I
up.
think
Once we're done on the
Yeah,
recording,
yeah,
I'll do it.
yeah.
So you can take the tune for that, and you can add these words, God, show me your way. And so you achieve the state of quieting, and what do you fill it with? With the song, which touches, right? It reaches into your soul, it reaches into your kishkas, and within that tune, you say, Hashem, show me your way.
Carol King.
Carol King, of course. Yeah. Okay. So he says the Rebbe had his own special tune. He says, Kama na'im v'nora b'yachad haya az ha'mechazeh asher zakiti lir'ot lishmo b'zchut chaveri yedidi hanal. It says, how sweet and awesome it was that I had the chance to see and hear this happen, and see the Rebbe and hear the Rebbe in action doing this thing. And again, he says, it wasn't because I was so great, it was in the schut of Yedidi, it was because of my friend who I learned with. It was in his action. Again, this idea of humility, it wasn't about him. He says, Ume'od hiflig admor az be'inyan hazeh. And he says, the Rebbe would really, it wouldn't force it, would emphasize the importance of this. The moment a person does this, they're going to see amazing things in their life. This is going to bring about awesomeness, right? It will have a great result. V'diber kigon le'inyan emunah la'achar ishtamshut eze shvuot b'Hashkata. He says, when we were talking about faith and believing in Hashem, he says, after somebody uses Hashkata for a few weeks, he says, Az k'she'amar ze eli va'anvehu, when a person in their tefillot, in their davening, says the line, this is my God and I will exalt him, which is at the splitting of the sea. We say, every day we recall when God split the sea, where it says that Am Yisrael crossed through and said, Ze eli va'anvehu, this is my God and I shall exalt him. The commentators there in the Midrash, and this is what he's going to say too, say that the people were able to point and say, Ze eli, like they were able to point at Hashem. It was so clear. Right? It says, Yeh bechinat mar'in be'etzba. It'll be on the level of you're able to show with your finger, k'mo she'ita kol zeh b'midrash, as it says in the Midrash, as the rabbis taught us.
Now, where is that in the service?
So that comes at the end of Psukei de Zimra before Shacharit. So before Yishtabach and Baruchu.
In the morning service.
In the morning service.
Okay.
Right? And even when we're coming up to the Shmon Esrei at Shacharit and at Mariv, right, we say Ze Eli Anu V'Amru, right? So the word is Ze Eli. The people said, this is my God.
Oh, okay.
And so it's that idea. Ze Eli, this is my God. He says, when you do Hashkata and you pray for faith, you'll get to a point where in your own tefillot, in your own life, you'll be able to say, oh, this is Hashem. The things that are happening in my life, and most of the time I'm saying, why? Why is this happening to me? And I'll be able to say, oh, this is God. It'll be very clear. He says, "B'pama rishona lo zachinu la'amor al tchilat da'ato shel admor. Zecher tzadik livracha l'chai olam haba." He says, the first time we heard this, we couldn't live up to it. We couldn't live up to these words. The Rebbe taught us this awesome stuff, and we couldn't live up to it. V'achar eza meshech zman.
Who's his Rebbe?
The Rebbe is the Piasetzner Rebbe, Rabbi Kalonymus Kalman Shapera, the one who...
Oh, okay.
Right? This is his teachings, but again, this is a letter written by one of his students.
Right, okay.
So whenever I've been saying the Rebbe, I mean the one who's teaching Hashkata to his students, and the student is the one who composed this.
Shapera.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So he says, we couldn't live up to what he wanted from us. V'achar eza meshech zman zachinu Hashem shenit lishma mipi kodsho hadvarim b'tosefet be'ur. Says, but after a little bit of time, we merited to hear it again. He told us again from his holy mouth. And not only that, he added some matters of clarification. And he's here lanu la'asod zeh ha'inyan. And he's here is like the word he warned us. It's not really that. He stressed how important this thing is. And that's how it ends.
No.
Right? That we have this idea of meditation, we have this idea of mindfulness, we have this idea of Hashkata, which I like to almost talk about as meaningfulness. And this way to reach out and try to achieve some kind of revelation, some kind of divine revelation, some level of prophecy in our own lives. And he says that it's hard to do. Even they who heard it from the Rebbe himself had a really hard time doing it. But really, once you do it, it achieves amazing things.
All right, you've done it, I presume.
I've done it.
Okay.
Not as consistently as I should do it. But it achieves amazing things. And I think that's the bracha for right now. That it achieves amazing things. Again, I called this originally mindfulness in the Warsaw Ghetto because this is probably what got him and many of the people who were with him through the Shoah and everything that was going on. And if it can have an effect in that kind of circumstance, in our own lives, imagine the kind of awakening that it can achieve. Imagine the kind of power and koch and ability to serve God and to bring godliness and see godly light in this world that we won't be able to do without. So I'm going to implore upon myself and you and anybody else who's listening. Let's involve ourselves in Hashkata. Let's do it with our whole hearts. Let's quiet our minds and tune into the divine will and the divine light that is in every aspect of this world. Shakoch, thank you for coming.
Yes,
Thank everyone for joining us. And Bezrat Hashem, we should see miracles in our lives.